In the spring of 1942, long before the Battle of Midway became one of the most decisive moments of World War II, a tiny team of American codebreakers sat in a cramped, sweltering basement beneath Pearl Harbor. They were known as Station HYPO, and their job was simple: break the Japanese naval code known as JN-25. But what they discovered in those tense weeks before the battle wasn't simply a military secret. According to some accounts, quietly discussed years later, they decoded something else. Something no one could explain. And something the Navy refused to officially acknowledge. The story begins with Commander Joseph Rochefort, a brilliant but eccentric intelligence officer who famously worked in a bathrobe and slippers. His team lived among stacks of paper, scattered radio intercepts, and humming machines that never seemed to sleep. JN-25 was notoriously complex, requiring months of painstaking effort to crack even a fragment of Japanese communications. Then, in late May 1942, Station HYPO intercepted a transmission unlike anything they had seen before. It wasn't formatted like a military order. It didn't follow any of the normal protocols. It contained odd numerical patterns repeated in sequences that made no tactical sense. And the encryption levels were far more complex than typical JN-25 messages. The coded message was short, but the team struggled with it for days. Rochefort later said it felt constructed differently, as though the author wanted it to be unreadable. Some analysts even joked that it looked like gibberish, until one of them realized the message wasn't encrypted with the new JN-25 keys, but with an older version supposedly abandoned months earlier. That was the first sign something was wrong. When the team finally unlocked the message, it contained a series of coordinates pointing not to Midway, but to an empty stretch of ocean far northwest of the island. There were no Japanese ships reported there, no expected movements, no weather reconnaissance, nothing that would explain a transmission of such secrecy. And then there was the final line of the decoded message, a line that would haunt the analysts who read it. The shadows move at dawn. No sender, no recipient, no signature, no authentication marks. Just that one cryptic sentence attached to impossible coordinates. The team brought the message to Rochefort, who initially dismissed it as a corrupted intercept. But when they checked the raw radio logs, they discovered the transmission had come through clean. No distortion, no overlapping signals, no evidence of error. Rochefort sent a cautious inquiry to Washington. Days later, he received a reply ordering him to disregard the message and focus solely on JN-25 traffic. The strange transmission was never to be referenced again, but the analysts kept talking about it privately. 3 days later, another coded Japanese message arrived, this time following normal JN-25 structure with clear indicators and signatures. It mentioned a special fleet element moving toward Midway and referred to unusual conditions reported by pilots. One phrase stood out: the sea is not behaving normally. Shortly after, multiple Japanese scouting planes vanished without sending their usual weather reports. Their positions, when matched with the earlier strange coordinates, fell disturbingly close to the area indicated by the first mysterious transmission. By now, Station HYPO had cracked enough of JN-25 to identify the true Japanese target, Midway. They devised the famous water ration trap to confirm it. The American ambush was set. The rest became history. But what happened in the days just before the battle continued to trouble members of the code-breaking team. After Midway, several Japanese documents recovered from the wreckage of the carrier Hiryu contained references to a lost unit, Naval Recon Group 7. It had been sent to perform long-range reconnaissance in the northern Pacific shortly before the battle. That entire unit vanished without a trace. No wreckage, no distress signals, no radio chatter. One recovered logbook fragment mentioned lights on the water and shapes moving beneath us. The final entry from one of the pilots simply read, "We are not alone out here." But the most unsettling discovery came years later, when a retired HYPO analyst, now in his 80s, claimed the first mysterious transmission they decoded was not Japanese at all. The numbers did not match typical naval traffic. The frequency used was not assigned to any known Japanese command center. And the encoding technique didn't align with any JN-25 variant. He believed the transmission originated from somewhere else entirely and was merely disguised as Japanese traffic. He insisted the coordinates pointed to a location where no fleet sailed, and no plane flew. Yet something transmitted from there. Was it a test message? A phantom transmission caused by atmospheric distortion? A misinterpreted signal from a lost aircraft? Or something more unsettling? Something that prompted the line, "The shadows move at dawn." No evidence was ever officially released. The transmission remained buried in classified archives, never acknowledged in any public intelligence report. Rochefort himself avoided discussing it in interviews, and HYPO's surviving members disagreed on its meaning. Some chalked it up to mistake. Some believed it was a Japanese deception attempt. Others quietly admitted they had never decoded anything like it before, or since. What is known is this. In the frantic days before Midway, Station HYPO was tracking Japanese fleets across the Pacific with pinpoint accuracy. Their intercepted messages helped turn the tide of the war. But among those messages was something that didn't belong, something that didn't behave like any military transmission. A signal from nowhere, a warning with no sender, a set of coordinates pointing to empty ocean, and a sentence no one could explain. The shadows move at dawn. Whether it was an error, a forgotten experiment, or something far stranger buried in the noise of war, we may never know. But in the vastness of the Pacific, where hundreds of ships vanished and countless planes were swallowed by the sea, some mysteries remain forever unsolved. And among codebreakers of the Pacific War, the strange transmission of Midway remains one of the most haunting.